St. Bonaventure Catholic Church in Huntington Beach, California presents
Rebuilt and Renewed,
Bringing the Word Home.
Happy Easter, and thanks for listening in to Rebuilt and Renewed. I think the season of Easter is a special season of encounter, and an encounter with not just anybody, but an encounter with the risen Lord, Him who takes away the sins of the world and raises us to new life. These 50 days are a time to embrace and encounter Jesus and to experience His joy, His peace, and His love. This week, Valerie McCarthy shares with us an experience of a moment when she encountered the risen Lord, and she invites us to encounter Him this week in the same way.
I'd once heard someone say that believing in things that were religious or having religious beliefs were things that were meant for poor people or uneducated people. And they were things that those types of people would cling to. And this person was an atheist. And being a kid, I didn't completely understand, what that meant at the time. And it wasn't until I got into college that I'd actually met people who were agnostic and atheist. And as a part of my major, I'd read a lot of philosophical texts, and we'd have to debate and defend ideas. And some of those philosophers, mocked religion and even proclaimed that God is dead. And so I'd met people who believed, the same things as these philosophers. And, at the same time, though, these individuals were so brilliant. I mean, they had such incredible minds. And, in the world of academia, they were, just giants. And I felt like this mental midget next to them. And I was intimidated by them. But at one point, they challenged, us believers to essentially walk through like this logical proof for the existence of God. And for as strong as I thought that my faith was at the time, I was, an engaged, practicing Catholic. But, they knew something and understood something, so I thought, that I didn't. And I began to entertain, the idea, what if God doesn't? What if He really doesn't exist? And so it was like putting on someone else's shoes. It was like shoes that aren't molded to your feet, and it just didn't feel right. But I felt like I was on this, maybe like this intellectual quest to really know and understand what these people did. And so it just so happens at the same time that I'm, trying to understand, is there really a God? Some other friends said to me, oh, you should come to this really awesome church. And they kept talking about it. And so I did. And I was so blown away at what I'd seen. It was a church that fed the homeless, twice a day, 365 days a year. And I thought that was really exciting. And they were a church that worked, in all kinds of outreach programs, and that was appealing to me. And I was just impressed with the sheer amount of people that attended this big, giant church. There's like wealthy people standing and holding hands with homeless people, and they were singing. And I thought to myself, wow, this is what God's church is supposed to look like. So I'd returned a few times, but by my third visit, the singing and the clapping and the nice words about God and Jesus, they all were nice. And I remember that week, they even passed out these loaves of bread that we ripped apart and shared with each other. But I really felt like there was something missing, like all of its glimmer had already gone. And I knew that I was looking for more substance. So I returned to campus that day. And that evening, after getting dinner, I remember seeing like this orange glow coming out from our school's chapel. And on Sunday night at our school, they offered an 8:00 mass. And I hadn't really given much thought to going to mass, but I found myself walking in, sitting down, and just, going through the motions. And I couldn't tell you what really, I couldn't tell you what the readings were about or what was said in the homily. But when I knelt down for the words of consecration, something moved in me. And it was this deep and profound movement. And I hadn't even realized it until I had sat back down after receiving communion that I had tears running down my cheeks. And I didn't even realize that I had been crying. And all of a sudden, all those things that I was so worried about, is God real? How does he fit in my life? Or, is this church better or not? I mean, talk about being this lost college student. I mean, everything that I had, been struggling with just seemed to go away. And I understood that the substance I was looking for was the Eucharist. It was Jesus being truly alive in me. I feel like Jesus' disciples in today's gospel must have had a moment like I did. I mean, they got to encounter him. I mean, it says that they were incredulous for joy and amazed. I think about how much doubt and uncertainty they must have lived with, having known him and seen what he did and known in their hearts that this, he really was the Messiah, and then watch him go through what he did. I mean, I feel like this was, this really important moment for them where they finally could have, this understanding. At Easter Mass, I found myself thinking about what Jesus didn't come here for. He didn't suffer the horrors and endure all the unimaginable torture that he did for us to be stuck in our doubt or our uncertainties. He didn't make those sacrifices for us to be trapped by our fears or worry or hate or anger. I mean, he's bigger than all of that. His love for us, it's solidified every time we remember him and receive him in the Eucharist. When I'm struggling with hurt or anger, some things, really upset me and I'm having a hard time with it, when I go to communion, I ask, Jesus to take those away from me, because I say to him, you didn't come for me to be stuck with these things. You didn't come and do what you did for us for me to carry these around. And, he always does. I go up and I receive communion and I sit down and I, begin my prayers, and he always does. I mean, God is so good. He takes that all away from my heart so that I can, be a better person for him. So I invite you to try this next week. Whatever you're struggling with, whatever your doubts and fears are, ask him to take it away, because I know he will. We are his disciples. I mean, this is the same Jesus from 2,000 years ago, the same Jesus who ministered to those disciples. I pray that we all allow him to transform us during this Easter season and elevate us every time we receive him.
Just before receiving the Eucharist, each time we come to Mass, the priest says to everyone, "The peace of the Lord be with you always." This is the peace from our God who is risen, the one who speaks to us those 4 beautiful Easter words, "Peace be with you." This Sunday, as you receive communion, we invite you to experience that peace, to allow that peace to take a deep root in your heart, that you may go out and share that peace with all those whom you meet, that they may come to encounter Christ in and through you. A short building update for this week. We are getting close to drafting bid documents for the number of general contractors that are interested in bidding our renovation. We are currently waiting for the completion of the landscape architectural designs, as well as the updated drawings for the ADA required driveways off of Springdale. And lastly, some mechanical drawings that the contractors will want in more detail. The project manager for the renovation has indicated that documents will be submitted to the interested contractors the week of April 23rd. He is indicating that we are still on target for an end of June or early beginning of July start date. We appreciate your continued prayer and support of this awesome project that we are undertaking. Until next time, thanks for listening in to
Rebuilt and renewed.
Bringing the word home.